Good afternoon, fellow patriots. This is Matt Shea, and welcome to Patriot Radio, broadcasting live from deep inside the heart of the future Liberty State. Sponsored once again by On Fire Ministries in the legacy of Dr. Stan Monteith, bringing you the story behind the story and the news behind the news, where it's not about right or left, it's about right and wrong. It's about our hope not being in man, but in Jesus Christ. About not ending in prayer, but moving to action. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Father, deliver us from the evil one.
Welcome to Patriot Radio.
Good afternoon, fellow patriots. Today on Patriot Radio, some massive developments on the globalist front regarding AI and robotics and how our world is about to change. China still on the move and very likely fomenting some of the unrest that we're seeing here in the United States. And President Trump pushes back to liberate Los Angeles. Also, our guest today is going to be talking about the economy, the financial situation that we find ourselves in right now. Joseph Lombardi, and if you have not heard of him, you're about to learn why he is an expert and what you can do to withstand what's coming. Here at Patriot Radio, we want you to have the news and information before everybody else. And one example of that recently is we talked about the No Kings movement. We broke the story nationally. No one else was talking about it until this week. That's how you can be 3 weeks ahead on the cutting edge. So follow us on Telegram at patriotradio.us/Telegram. Also during this time, supply chains are being disrupted. And one way that you can make sure your household supplies are still there when you need them is you can go to Patriots Buying American. And Patriots Buying American is a way to get sundry items and also wellness products as well. This is a way that you don't have to worry about tariffs affecting anything coming in from China, but it's actually a vertically integrated supply chain here in the United States. patriotradio.us/buy American. Also during this time, some of you may be experiencing some fear. So please reach out to us. We would love to pray with all of you. patriotradio.us/prayer. We want to walk with you through that journey. On the road, it sometimes is a little bit rocky, but is so victorious as a Christian. That brings us now to your wisdom from the Word, coming to us from Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 10. For I have heard the whispering of many, terror on every side. Denounce him, let's denounce him. All my trusted friends watching for my fall say, perhaps he will be persuaded so that we may prevail against him and take our revenge on him. See, there's nothing new under the sun. But God continues, but the Lord is with me like a powerful champion. Therefore, my persecutors will stumble and not prevail. They will be put to great shame because they have failed. An everlasting disgrace that will not be forgotten. Yet Lord of armies, who tests the righteous, who sees the mind and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them, for to you I have disclosed my cause. Sing to the Lord, praise the Lord, for he has saved the soul of the needy one from the hand of evildoers. Jeremiah chapter 20, verse 10, all the way down to verse 13. Read that tonight with your family. I think it'll bring you some great encouragement in the trying times that we're in right now in the United States. Which brings us now to your daily intelligence brief. Coming to us from the globalist front.
The future is built by us. We have the means to make progress on the global agenda.
So what is in store for us in the next 2 years? Well, the world is about to change dramatically. 50,000 robots coming online next year and 150 million by 2030. AI taking over many jobs that heretofore were staffed by professionals and white collar. In fact, white collar jobs are very likely to take the biggest hit. AI is going to replace a lot of government bureaucrats. That's why they got rid of them, one of the reasons. And robots will replace a lot of the illegal immigrants that were working here in the United States. So, what does this look like? Well, according to Technocracy News, Microsoft announced last month that it was going to lay off 3% of its workforce, or 6,000 employees. Amazon is slated to lay off 14,000 mid-level managerial positions by 2026, and the sales force will not hire any new engineers in 2025 because the remaining programmers are more productive with AI. So what we're seeing is a massive shift in the workforce. And mark my words, mark this episode, bookmark it, save it, share it with your friends and family. They're going to try to come in with a universal basic income based on rare earth minerals being mined in the United States, and probably through our agreement with Ukraine, to offset this massive shift in our economy. So, this is what the globalists are bringing to us. And Mark Andreessen underscores this by saying robots to be multi-trillion-dollar industry, biggest in history. Without AI, there would be no robots. Now the world will be flooded with robots, even outnumbering humans. Here is the interesting piece about this. Who's going to manage the robots? You're going to see a shift to management positions of squads of robots, 2024 robots, maintenance of robots, continued robotics and maintenance of cars until AI can catch up and figure that out as well. Again, this is a massive, massive shift that is happening. A massive shift that is happening in the United States and around the world. So be prepared for it with your family. Also, Trump signed an order deregulating flying cars and supersonic flight. Very interesting. I covered this in the legislature almost a decade ago. Nobody really believed me about flying cars. But actually, the automated air traffic control system has already been tested and will continue to be tested to allow flying cars, automated, do many things like pick you up, take over for air travel inside countries, and also deliver packages. Yes, drones will be on that same automated air traffic control system. Flying cars are not just for the Jetsons, they are also for the American people in the near term. The near term, like next 5 years, says White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. Get ready. Life is going to change quickly. And a little bit disconcertingly, DARPA, to simulate disease outbreaks, model lockdown, vaccination, and messaging strategies. Yeah. They're ramping up the redux of COVID, it looks like. Quote, state-of-the-art capabilities and simulation of disease outbreaks, advanced capabilities that drive technical innovation and identify critical gaps in biosurveillance, diagnostics, and medical countermeasures. This sounds like they're setting it up again, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. Amazon is also testing humanoid robots to deliver packages, so you won't just get it from the air in a drone, but you could have a robot come to your door by the end of 2025. Hear that again, by the end of 2025. Folks, this is here, and it is now. Lastly, on the globalist front, there is no room for prejudice, for security zones separating us from our neighbors, for the exclusionary mindset that unfortunately we now see emerging also in political nationalisms. The church must open the borders between peoples and break down the barriers between class and race. That sounds very Marxist, but also Jesus was a nationalist. He created nations in Genesis 10, and he judges them in Matthew 25. Interesting if we actually would quote Jesus once in a while. That moves us to the China front. the Sino-Russian nexus is solidified against the backdrop of war in Ukraine. Moscow and Beijing have both exploited the circumstances of the war to deepen their strategic entanglement, and it is therefore become strategically impossible to separate them. At this time, I would agree with that assessment, and that needs to be taken into account with our foreign policy. Also, Beijing warns the EU to stop provoking trouble in the South China Sea. The warning from China's embassy in the Philippines follows criticism from a top EU official about Beijing's conduct. Quote, "We urge the EU to genuinely respect China's territorial sovereignty and maritime rights and interests in the South China Sea and to stop provoking trouble." Yeah, the only problem is it's the Chinese that are, and that's what communists do. They will always try to blame you. But more on that in just a second. Indonesia is weighing the purchase of J-10 fighter jets from China, given their relatively cheaper price and advanced capability. Southeast Asia's most populous country has in recent years embarked on efforts to modernize its aging military hardware. This would actually create a very strategic difficulty if they decide to align with China. Also, Rod D. Martin giving us an exclusive regarding massive power struggle in Beijing. Is Xi Jinping's grip crumbling after vanishing for 14 days? Xi appeared looking weak. Sources suggest CCP internal chaos, unusual personnel changes, top military commanders, suspicious death, lower ranking delegates sent to major summit instead of higher ranking, and media coverage dramatically being reduced. Yes, very likely they're trying to solidify power before attempting to invade Taiwan. Also, Trump has said recently that Xi Jinping is extremely hard to deal with, according to the Spectator Index. And China continues to expand its power as Democrat Party candidate Lee Myung wins the South Korean presidency. At the same time, Taiwan President Lai commemorates the Tiananmen Square massacre. Things are shaping up in the South China Sea, and it is barreling toward war in the very near term, like next 5 years, very likely the next 2. 2 Chinese nationals were charged with conspiracy for smuggling a, quote, dangerous biological pathogen into the United States. 2 Chinese citizens were charged with a conspiracy, and as they smuggled this in, they were also charged with false statements and visa fraud, according to U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of Michigan. They were arrested by the FBI following allegations that they'd smuggled a fungus into the country, which is a potential agro-terrorism weapon. I've known about this for a long time, but we haven't seen this crop up recently. That is a bioweapon to attack our crops and our food supply. That brings us now to the Middle East front. Speaking of biological pathogens, pro-Palestinian activists plotted to poison Israeli attendees at the 2025 Boom Festival, a massive week-long event held in Nova, Portugal. With around 4,000 Israelis expected, roughly a quarter of the crowd, the plan aimed to cause mass harm by contaminating food and drinks near the Israeli camping zones, lacing LSD with pesticides, and even setting fire to tents. This plot was exposed by a Jewish artist using the pseudonym Sarah, who is embedded in the left-wing WhatsApp coordination group of the festival. Yeah. The jihadis are not going to give up on October 7th. And daily, the likelihood is increasing of an October 7th style attack inside the United States as well. Be prepared. Exercise your Second Amendment rights. Be trained on how to use it, as I sense this is coming sooner rather than later. Meanwhile, Iran demanded the forced dismantling of Israel's nuclear arsenal and rejected Trump's nuclear deal. Trump spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu earlier today, and this was no ordinary meeting. Top Israeli officials included all of the essential leaders of the defense establishment in Israel, and it's very obvious the subject is Israel going to attack Iran. In fact, Trump, when asked about it, said the situation was, quote, very dire, end quote, and When asked if his call with Netanyahu was about Iran, he shrugged and said, quote, "What else? I'm not calling to talk about the weather," end quote. This raises the likelihood of a strike against Iran to over 80% here in the next 2 weeks. But maybe something will change. But it really doesn't look like it at this point. Also, a huge development in Gaza. A Gazan leader launched a civil push to replace Hamas rule in Rafah in an effort to build a civil alternative to Hamas. Yasser Shabab has announced the recruitment of Gazans with experience, skills, and expertise for voluntary roles in civil governance. Areas include health, engineering, education, tech, law, communications, and social development. So it does look like the first signs of a replacement government are happening, but I don't think the Israelis are going to let them do that. And lastly, of course, Iran posts a picture from the LA riots because our enemies, as Sarah Adams so correctly points out, feed on our weakness. And the feel-good story of the day, Greta Thunberg's Madeleine ship was detained, and so were all activists aboard by the Israeli military. Some interesting pictures from that. There is Greta being handed a sandwich and smiling because, of course, they treated her well. But, of course, she's going to propagandize this and say that they didn't. Obviously not a genocide going on there. Sandwiches for everyone, including Greta Thunberg. When we come back from the break, more from the Russia front and some troubling developments regarding Los Angeles and what's coming up this weekend. You want to hear this? Stay tuned so you can be prepared.
Attention business owners and entrepreneurs, Patriot TV is launching a brand new TV series showcasing American-made products, and your business could be featured. Whether you sell your products online on Etsy or Shopify and dream of reaching millions of viewers on smart TVs like Samsung, Sony, TCL, and LG, or apps like Roku, Android, and Apple TV, this is your chance. We're searching for U.S.-based businesses offering all types of products and services proudly made in the USA. If you've ever wanted to showcase your products on TV like QVC or the Home Shopping Network, now's your opportunity. Support our American economy, grow your business, and be seen by loyal Patriot viewers across the country. Know someone with a business or have a business yourself? Don't miss out. Contact us at supportingpatriots.com today. Be a guest on this new exciting TV series. Let's put your American-made products in the spotlight.
The new Supporting Patriots show on Patriot TV spotlights great Patriot-owned companies and introduces them to Patriot consumers, encouraging them to buy American-made. If you're an America-loving patriot that owns and operates his or her own business, and you have Made in America products or services, you're the perfect candidate to be interviewed on the Supporting Patriots show. If you'd like to be considered for an interview, email us at supportingpatriots@patriot.tv.
And we're back with the Russia front. An F-16 fighter shot down a Russian Su-35 for the first time in history. The Dutch-donated F-16 shot down the Russian plane over the Kursk region of Russia on June 7th. The Ukrainian pilot fired an air-to-air missile and hit that plane, taking it down, which, again, is a first in history, but is also a warning to the Russian Air Force, which just took a massive hit with the very imminently successful Ukrainian drone strike deep inside Russian territory. In fact, the drones are continuing to strike deep inside Russian territory as long-range drones struck another airbase near Novgorod, about 650 kilometers from Ukraine. A Russian MiG-31 and Su-30/34 fighter were destroyed in that strike. In addition to that, the Ukrainians struck almost 1,000 kilometers into Russia, striking the Veneer Progress factory, which manufactures military electronic components for Russian air defense systems, tanks, IFVs, and drones and naval vessel submarines and anti-EW equipment. So you're going to see this logistics warfare continue. I want to highlight something. is the United States prepared for a similar attack here? Inside the U.S., where shipping containers could be brought into the United States, deep into the United States, and hit sitting strategic bombers on the flight line. Many people think there's air defense systems, short-range air defense systems around these facilities, and in many cases, they're not, or they're very old or untested. Now, some people might take umbrage at what I just said, but the fact of the matter is that very large-scale anti-drone technology needs to be produced in the near term, because much of the air defense systems are not for taking out individual drones. So they're going to say, well, they're not exactly ineffective. Yeah, but the problem is they're not effective against swarms of drones. That's what we're talking about here. We need near air defense systems, short-range air defense systems to protect against drones. This needs to be brought up to the highest levels. I'm sure it already is being talked about, but this needs to be pushed too by every American to protect our own infrastructure here in the United States. In retaliation, the Russians continue suicide drone attacks against Ukraine. Around 100 Russian drones were in the air targeting the Sumy region here just the other day, and they will continue to hit that region hard with the ongoing offensive there. Lithuanian president criticized the German chancellor for not imposing sanctions on Russia as he promised. When asked if Merz undermined the credibility of Europe, the Lithuanian president said, of course, it's a problem. And this affects not only the credibility of our sanctions, but also the credibility of our measures against Russia and our support for Ukraine. So with a little bit of infighting happening now between the Baltic states, who are right on the border with Russia, and Germany. That brings us now to the South America front. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum saying Mexico could take action against the United States if Trump introduces a tax on money sent back home by Mexicans working in the USA. Well, the reason Trump is hitting that is because that will remove the incentive to work in the United States illegally. If necessary, we will mobilize. We don't want taxes on remittances for our fellow countrymen, end quote. That sounds almost like a declaration of economic war. Interesting to see what Trump does to respond. Also, this horrific assassination attempt. Interesting how right-wing candidates, and they're not really right. I don't believe in right or left. I believe in people that love freedom. So we're going to say freedom-loving candidates, liberty-loving candidates. One is stabbed in Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro. You have other attempted assassinations, and then you have the Colombian Senator Miguel Uribe, considered a presidential contender, shot in the head during a campaign event in Bogota Saturday. He remains in intensive care and has at least one surgery that he's undergone. Prognosis remains guarded, but why? And then Trump. Looks like the leftists are the ones that are the violence promoters. And we're going to see that here right now. Please pay attention to this very important segment on the national front. This is breaking news. President Trump and the U.S. military are preparing to deploy nearly 700 Marines, a full battalion, to Los Angeles, California, as additional National Guard troops will arrive to help contain the escalating out-of-control riots there in downtown L.A. Trump's border czar Tom Homan revealed that the raids that sparked the violent L.A. riots were not for immigration purposes. Homan explained that the raids that took place in downtown Los Angeles on Friday were part of a criminal investigation into, wait for it, money laundering and cartel activity. It wasn't an immigration raid. It was to serve as 3 criminal warrants at locations based on large criminal conspiracy that ICE is investigating. All right. So, of course, this was not about immigration raids, but that's what the left wants, to try to gin up this color revolution in the United States. And yes, I'm using that term intentionally because now we're starting to see banners, flags, etc. And I'm going to get into who's behind this here in a second. The bottom line is this is going to ramp up. It's not going to be for the long term, but this is going to ramp up over the next few months. And just as we said here on Patriot Radio 3 weeks ago, there is an inflection point on June 14th with the No Kings movement, which I'm going to get to this weekend, where they're going to try to do this type of thing all over the country. Now, let's get into some specifics. Rioters wearing now Palestinian garb are propelling bricks at police officers and ICE agents through the windows of their SUVs. So that is deadly force being used by the Marxists and the Islamists. And I should say jihadis. I hate that term, Islamists. That doesn't even make sense. Jihadis. Anti-Trump, pro-Los Angeles insurrection protesters blocked traffic outside the DOJ and FBI in Washington, D.C. today as well. It's important to note that Representative Jayapal from, guess where? Originally Washington, addressed the crowd moments before their actions turned lawless. Wonder if she's going to be held accountable for that. Also, far-left and Mexican nationalist insurrectionists have launched a violent attack on headquarters of LAPD, probably deeming it easier to attack than the federal facilities. Far-left rioters turned downtown Los Angeles into a literal dumpster fire, as you can see by this video. Literally a dumpster fire in downtown Los Angeles. Perfect description of what's going on. Interestingly enough, a pallet of bricks happens to be within striking distance of ICE agents. Now, this is what you can look out for. Number one, look out for pallets of bricks appearing in your community. If they do, don't just contact law enforcement. You need to contact law enforcement. Post it on Twitter. Get it online. Get it out there as fast as possible. You can tag me on Twitter and I'll make sure that it gets national visibility. Make sure you report it on social media and show the images. This is how they stage things, and you know where they're going to strike next. Also, if you see, for example, them building incendiary devices or Molotov cocktails, in other words, jars and bottles, Home Depot buckets, etc., gasoline cans, obviously that is a clear indicator of creating incendiary devices. So report that and get it out online as soon as you possibly can. These Marxists are violent and they want to destroy this country. This is the time for all Americans to stand up. This is the time for all Americans to come together right now. These Marxists have been signaling what they want to do for years. Their terrorism and what they have openly said, and we're going to get to that here in a second, is the overthrow of the United States is becoming full swing, into full swing right now, and especially going into this weekend. Now, so that people don't think this is hyperbole, there's a guy in a communist garb, literally draped with a communist flag, as part of these riots. They're making no bones about this. The Marxists and the Islamists work seamlessly together to make this happen. That includes Unity of Fields and its adherents. They're tied to Cuban intelligence and possibly foreign intelligence. And in fact, Unity of Fields / Hamas, citing Lenin, called for armed insurrection inside the United States. This is the call to arms for jihadis inside the United States for them to operationalize. Quote, form fighting squads at once everywhere. Wow. Then it says this, just so we're clear, let them arm themselves at once as best they can, be it with a revolver, a knife, a rag soaked in kerosene for starting fires, etc. End quote. So Unity of Fields represents the jihadist side at this point. And you have, combined with that, the cartels, which have already been designated as foreign terrorist organizations. And here are some images. I want these images to be burned into your memory. That is not the United States flag. That looks like an invasion with the destruction of property, injury to other human beings inside the United States of America. And in the case, according to the U.S. Constitution, of insurrection or rebellion inside the United States of America, the writ of habeas corpus can be suspended by the President of the United States to restore order. It's very odd that some people think that a foreign invasion or foreign invaders have some sort of due process to be expelled from the country. They do not. And they should be expelled expeditiously. Also, the mayor of Los Angeles, as many of you may not know, was a willing recruit for Fidel Castro's intelligence service, a KGB proxy. Now, so that we're clear on this, J. Michael Waller is the one that posted this. We've had him on here quite a bit, but he very clearly detailed that she was trained in revolutionary warfare and subversion during her many decades in the Cuban regime-sponsored Venceramos brigades. I probably butchered that. That's okay. Or Venceramos brigades. She was a talent scout and recruiter. I think this is probable cause to investigate the mayor of Los Angeles. What are her ties to foreign intelligence organizations and services? So, summing this all together, my friend, who is now passed on, Rich Higgins, said this: because the hard left is aligned with Islamist organizations, at local, Antifa working with Muslim Brotherhood doing business as MSA and CARE, national, ACLU and BLM working with CARE and IMPAC, and international levels, OIC working with OSCE and the UN, recognition must be given to the fact that they seamlessly interoperate at the narrative level as well. That's why the narrative across the board is close to the same. Also, Laura Loomer identified CASA, a nonprofit organization previously recorded to have bussed in anti-Trump protesters to D.C. on May Day, helped organize protests in Los Angeles. Other organizations involved include the teachers' unions, AFT and NEA, as well as the SEIU. Again, are they nonprofits still for a reason? Obviously, that should be investigated. So now we come to the biggest part of it, and that is the No Kings movement and protest this weekend. Its moniker: no thrones, no crowns, and no kings. We broke this story nationally 3 weeks ago. A very clear and direct attack at Christianity, because there's no king but Jesus over the United States of America, as the founding fathers believed and said. That came out of the Scottish Covenanter movement a couple hundred years before. But what I want to say about this is that June 14th, again, was picked as the inflection point, and they have some money this time. That's why we're seeing more activity. However, I believe what happened is, in Seattle, when we were there, and Antifa attacked the peaceful prayer and worship gathering, and they were demoralized because they were arrested and their lines were broken, and the church did not give ground, that they had to begin this earlier than they wanted to in Los Angeles. So, this very likely in Los Angeles looks like a trigger event. And No Kings will be the quick follow-up to that trigger event. And it is happening all over the country, as you can see with this map. Here is my call to you. No King but Jesus USA. That's what I believe. I want you to check out if there is going to be some protest in your area on June 14th. And on June 13th, go there, worship, pray, take communion, and declare no king but Jesus. If you are a minister, if you have a ministry, maybe it's just a nonprofit that helps feed folks on the streets, go there and take the ground for the kingdom of Jesus Christ. Speak love and peace over the land, but stand. It's time for all of us as Americans to stand. And that is the briefing. Remember, the antidote to dependency and socialism is to be a God-fearing, self-reliant, freedom-loving American. And when we come back from the break, our guest, Joseph Lombardi.
Throughout history, the spirit of patriotism has prevailed. The battles may have changed, but the values remain the same. Today, in 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. For more than 10 years, Patriot Mobile has been committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream. Because this year is not just any year, It's the most important year since our nation's founding. Choose a wireless carrier that shares your values. Choose Patriot Mobile.
What do a neurosurgeon, a country artist, and a television and radio host have in common? They all saw the writing on the wall. Big banks sharing your financial information with big government. Join them as owners in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank that protects your privacy, security, and liberty. Invest today at own.oldglorybank.com.
And we're back with our guest today, Joseph Lombardi. He's the managing director of Ironhawk Financial, a dedicated financial advisor who helps families and business owners secure their financial futures through personalized protection strategies and wealth building solutions. You can find him at ironhawkfinancial.com. Joseph, it's great to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me.
So I want to start with the state of the economy right now. I was talking to some folks that own a trucking business the other day, very concerned. Their business is almost dead right now, and the tariffs, that whole situation hasn't really even remotely come to any kind of conclusion. What is your sense on the economy, and what do you think is going to happen here in the near future?
Well, as Trump said, there's going to be growing pains. There's going to be upfront, instant pains. And I know that goes against our culture. We are a culture of give it to me now, hurt my future self. And I think Trump is actually saying, hey, let's stop enriching our present self now and actually build something and protect ourselves. It's the number one principle in financial planning is to build a solid financial foundation. And I think Trump is coming into this country as a businessman that we all voted for. And he's saying, hey, we have to go through these pains. We're going to have to go through all these stupid riots and all this stupid George Soros funded BS. We're going to have to go through the market doing somersaults for the next few months till we get some sort of stabilization and we can actually start to rebuild our country.
Well, I think it gets missed too that part of the tariffs was to prevent China from having the military and economic capability to wage war or wage a third world war. I think people miss that.
I think people miss a lot of stuff. I believe our school systems are built to make ignorant slaves that are easily taken advantage of by debt, because debt is the new slavery. And I believe that many people don't have the tools set up to actually think for themselves. And I think that's a big problem in our culture, our society, and our country.
Let's talk a little bit about AI and robotics. I mean, the world is about to change next year, 50,000 robots and then 150 million by 2030. Obviously, AI has to be a part of this. Microsoft laying off a third of its workforce, Amazon looking to lay off most of its mid-level managerial staff, 14,000 by 2026. What does that mean for the rest of the economy, and how can Americans prepare for that?
It means only the strong survive. The people that have put time and energy into an actual talent. They didn't just go to college, go $250,000 in debt, and take whatever job some corporation told them to start at the bottom and hope they work their way up. That way of planning is like the old 1980s, I'm going to join this manufacturing company. That's going to be extinct. So people need to really understand, build their own business. They need to invest in themselves. They have to stop wasting their time and talent on BS, Netflix, video games, things that don't improve them long term.
Well, I mean, it seems like that's exactly the road we're going down, that there would be a universal basic income. And Joseph, you can just sit at home and have a great life, playing Call of Duty 87,
Yeah, eat your crickets and play your video games, and here's your pod. Here's your 10 by 10 jail cell, also known as a nursing home or a jail cell, or I guess now your new home.
Yeah. So how can Americans build their own business and invest in themselves? Give some examples of what you've seen be successful, because I think a lot of people say, I don't know where to start. That seems too daunting for me.
Number one is you need to get out of debt. Period. End of discussion. Debt is cancer to your financial health. You're paying interest to somebody else. You're taking OPM, other people's money, at high interest rates. You are hurting your future self, which if you're not going to enrich your future self, who is? Make that make sense? So you really need to get out of debt, number one. Number two is you need to have a budget. You need to make sure you know where every dollar is going, why it's going there, how it's going there. Because if not, you're going to be drunk texting on TikTok at 2 a.m. and buy crap you don't need and can't afford. Number three is once you have your budget, once you're out of debt, is you need to live below your means, which is something that our country is very bad at. We spend 102.3% of our gross domestic product, meaning for every $100 that comes into a household, it's been $102. Not really a good, long-lasting longevity plan. Hence, our debt's going to be over $40 trillion. And taxes in the 1980s were over 70%, and taxes in the 1960s were over 92%. So you need to start building tax-free pools of money, utilizing different IRS codes and following what the multimillionaires and billionaires are doing, and stop doing what all the sheeple are doing. 401ks are not good. IRAs, SEP, Simples, pension, deferred comp, 457s, even Roth IRAs, which is the best strategy the government has to offer, is not good. Holding gold and silver and hoping that, hey, if I die, my family can find it. Well, you hid it in your house. Where? If I get robbed, I lose it, right? So is it good to have some? Absolutely. But is it good to not put all your eggs in one basket, especially one that's taxable? Yes.
So what does that look like? What should people, because the question is there going to be a recession? Let's get to that first. Joseph, do you think there's going to be a recession coming up? Do you think there's going to be more broad sweeping job loss across the board? That's a great question. I believe that Trump is having issues with the Federal Reserve right now. He's having issues with all these organizations right now because he's actually trying to make real change, not the fake change. So is a recession coming? I'd flip a coin. I think what Trump is doing right now is trying very hard not to have it get to that point. But if it has to get to that point in order for us to grow long term, I think Trump's all in. I mean, he's a multi-billionaire, but he has bankrupted a bunch of companies. So he's going to try his best to say, hey, are you on board or you're not? You can't force people to do the right thing to help themselves. You can only lead a horse to water to drink, but you can't force it to drink. Well, I don't know if you share this opinion, but I have advocated for 2 decades now, including in the legislature, to abolish the Federal Reserve. And I think that would be extremely helpful. Get rid of it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to be a country that doesn't control its own currency, but yet we're the most powerful country, doesn't that tell us that we aren't powerful at all if we can't even control our own dollars? I mean, make that make sense. Exactly. When we come back from the break, more from Joseph Lombardi. We're going to be talking about what can you do to protect your wealth and truly build it in this era of uncertainty.
American business owners, you understand the power of TV. If you have a product that you want to sell to millions of like-minded Americans who value quality, hard work, and supporting the red, white, and blue, Supporting Patriots is the perfect place. If you're ready to bring your product to a patriotic audience eager to buy American, then contact us today at supportingpatriots.com and secure your spot on Supporting Patriots. Let's build a stronger economy. When we buy American, we support our future.
I couldn't give anything a higher endorsement.
I would be remiss had I not include Cardio Miracle on my very short list of secrets.
It's the real deal. It's a real product. It's not another supplement.
I'm operating about 6 to 8 hours, and I've noticed that being on this Cardio Miracle has made a huge difference.
Since I started taking Cardio Miracle about 8 months into it, the benefits have been fantastic.
You know, if I get hungry, then I just have a Cardio Miracle.
Not only is it safe, but it's necessary to take Cardio Miracle to stay well.
This let me sleep, it's feeling with more energy, more get up and go, and it's all because of what this company does.
For me as a doctor, Cardio Miracle is a staple.
Cardio Miracle to me is hope in a glass.
To try Cardio Miracle for yourself and get a special fan discount, go to the host page right now and click the link for Cardio Miracle.
We're back with Joseph Lombardi, IronHawkFinancial.com. Joseph, let's get into this. What are the best vehicles? You know, as a pastor, one of the number one questions I get is about finances from couples that are going to get married, from couples that are already married and have lived wrong for a while. What do I do to straighten my finances out? How do I get on a firm financial foundation? What say you?
Well, assuming you're out of debt, assuming you have a budget, assuming you have money to put away, the best place to put your money right now is into something called Index Universal Life. That's just my professional opinion, doing this for 22 years, winning 30 awards, being a published author of 3 books, being featured in 8 publications throughout the country and doing hundreds of these shows. Is the being your own bank, infinite banking, rich person's Roth is the best way long term. You don't take my word for it. Just go to Forbes, and type in rich person's Roth Forbes, and articles will pop up written by certified public accountants on this strategy. Strategy's been around hundreds of years. You think of somebody like Shohei Ohtani gets a $700 million baseball contract. Where do you think he puts his money? Think he puts it in a 401k or an IRA or the bank with a $250,000 FDIC insurance protection on it? No. This strategy is made for billionaires and trillionaires. I was a lobbyist. I bet in the White House after 5 o'clock on Friday night, private dinners. I live in Connecticut, so I had the Connecticut branch, part of the AAC. What was it, through Guardian? I just forget the name, but I basically went down there and I gave money to politicians, if that makes sense. IRS code section 7702 is where it's at. It's I have thousands of clients, billions of dollars of protection rollovers in my career. And it's so vitally important to have a financial foundation. I watched my dad fall 3 stories off a ladder, lose a $27 million construction company, JV Lombardi Builders. I watched my mother die at 52 years old, cirrhosis of liver with no life insurance. I watched my grandmother have a stroke after she inherited my grandfather's estate, Lombardi Masonry. He dealt with, rocks and concrete for 4 decades, and then the state of Connecticut stole it all and threw my grandmother in a 10 by 10 cell known as a nursing home. She had no long-term care. So what the strategy does is it protects you from the 4 things that are guaranteed to happen to you. 1 is, and 2 most likely will happen, is if you live long and die. That's the one you want. You have a big tax-free pension. It's also sue-proof, divorce-proof, can't lose, averaging double-digit returns over the last 20 years, can lean the money out. And then if I die early, tax-free benefit to the people I love and was sworn to protect. I have 3 children. I'm married, so if something happens to me, I want to make sure, hey, at least my children and my spouse have maintained the same quality of life if I'm unable to provide it due through my income now being lost because I'm dead. Disability, you're going to get up to $1.5 million in cash while you're still alive to maintain your quality of life. And if you need long-term care, they'll give you up to $30,000 a month tax-free. And who is they? I represent 200 carriers, all A+, mutual, 187, survived the Civil War, World War I, the Great Depression, World War II. Never needed outsourced money, never needed the government to come in, baby daddy Obama to bail them out, none of that. These are self-sufficient, multi-billion and trillion-dollar companies that have sustained banks. I mean, banks fail, insurance companies don't. Right, you have AIG, the only one I can remember in my lifetime that failed, and they were bailed out within 3 business days, to the point where people were mad because they were buying helicopters because there's so much money in reinsurance. So when you understand the safe place to put your money is have it tax-free, have it sue-proof, have it divorce-proof, have it earning you money, have it to the ability you can't lose, have the ability to lean the money out. When you think of somebody like Elon Musk, love him or hate him, if he needs $100 million for a SpaceX rocket, he has 2 choices. He can lean the money out, pay $0 in taxes, and the stock that he's leaning earns more than the loan rate he's paying the bank. So he actually has a negative interest rate alone, and he still earns the profit because he didn't sell anything. Or he can do what the average American does, which is sell $200 million of Tesla stock, pay $100 million in taxes, lose out on $200 million of future growth on that said asset, and then net the $100 million. Which one do you think smart people are doing, and which one do you think dumb people are doing?
So what does that practically look like for the average American? How would you even get involved in that?
Yeah, so I have clients that give me $5 million a year. I have clients give me $250 a month. It's structured in a way where you're utilizing the code as if you were funding an IRA, a 401k, or a SEP. Most people put $7,000 in the Roth, so you can start at $600 a month. If you're maxing your 401k out at $16,000, $18,000, but you're only matched up to $3,000, why? Take that extra $11,000, put it in a tax-free account that is liquid, sue-proof, can't lose, and then you can lean the money out. Can you imagine buying vehicles within 6 years? The interest you saved by not going to Ford of America or Lexus Financial, plus the growth that you earned, right? This strategy documented, right? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. This strategy documenting is averaging 14% over the last 15 and 20 years. So if the loan rate's 5, and you're making 14, that's a positive 9% rate of return on money that's not there. You already took it out. Google non-direct recognition. They non-directly recognize the lien or the loan against your death benefit. And if you're guaranteed to die, which we all are, nobody escapes this rock alone. If you're guaranteed to die, they know it's an asset they have to pay out. So why would they lien it to you in the beginning? Because they know that at some point they're going to have to pay it out anyway. So why not lien that asset? You don't need millions of dollars in real estate. You don't need to be a mogul like Trump, because Trump does it with real estate as non-direct recognition using, a building, a Trump Tower worth, $300 million. You can pull $100 million out in 2 seconds, tax-free. So you build it as your own bank, which is one of the 3 books I've written, and I'm willing to give any and all of your listeners all of my books for free. Just send an email to joe@ironhawkfinancial.com. and say, heard you on Patriot TV or free books. I'll send you my articles, magazines, YouTube video, my radio show, Money Talk with Iron Hawk, that's on Apple or Podcast Co. Hundreds of thousands of listeners. But, at the end of the day, when people understand this is real, it's not a scam, it's not BS. You're talking hundreds of years of documented success. And you're talking about it surviving times that are even harder than now, like the Great Depression, that has clients lost 0. So this is the best place, in my opinion, to put your money instead of putting money in Bitcoin, which I own Bitcoin, in gold and silver, which I own gold and silver. But this is, in my opinion, the first thing you should have as your foundation, and then lean it to buy the Bitcoin and gold and silver so you can earn 2 streams of income on $1.
That's fantastic. So let's say somebody does have debt. And they just could start, I guess they would start at what, $250 a month or, $500 a month. That's kind of where they start at the same time trying to get out of debt.
Yeah. So Iron Hawk Financial has strategic partnerships. We're a national company. You can, your viewers can Google us. We have strategic partnerships with Schoolie Mitchell, CashMap, Capstone. We save money on all types of debt, all types of expenses like auto, home, liability, workman's comp, business auto, health insurance, things you're mandated to pay, right? We have avenues to save you money. Then we take the money we save you and we invest it, right? And our goal is to take money that's going into your left pocket, right? Call it a 401k, an IRA, a SEP, simple pension, a Roth IRA. Take those dollars and put them into your right pocket. And it's going to give you so many more benefits, right? When you think of a 401k real quick, right? You have all these fees on the way up. Well, what are those? You have 12B1 fee, Class A share fund fee, money management fee, annual account fee, mutual fund expense fee, right? So Wall Street is stealing 1% to 2% of your money annually. Are you getting any value for it? Are they buying low, selling high? Are they day trading for you? Are you outperforming the S&P 500? No, you're in some high fee target fund. Nobody knows how a target fund is. It's a crop of if you're old, if you're younger, we're going to be more aggressive. If you're older, we're going to be more conservative. And at the end of the day, it has not outperformed the S&P 500. Look at the numbers, right? And you're paying all this money for it, right? So what's 1.5%? Simple over 30 years? Well, 30 times 1.5 is 45%. Well, that's simple. This is compounding fee. And by the time you get to year 30, on average, they take your first 3 years of contributions as the fee. And again, I can prove it with numbers. So if over half your money is being stolen by Wall Street, and yes, I've worked in Wall Street. I live in Connecticut and I've worked in New York City for many years. I worked in Manhattan before I started my own business. But when you get up and you're accumulating this money, half of your money is being stolen by Wall Street. I call it the second arm of the IRS. Then when you pull the money out, what do you have? Federal tax, FICA, Medicare, unemployment, Social Security tax, state tax, right? So then half your money is being stolen on the way out. So on the way up, over half your money is being stolen. And then on the way out, half your money is being stolen by the government. Why don't you think these major companies that are worth trillions of dollars advertise on a Super Bowl commercial that says, hey, everybody, we're a $1 trillion company. We can afford a $2.3 million 30-second spot. It's against the law for these major companies to advertise a product, but yet they can advertise tobacco, alcohol, a lethal jab injection, experimental drug that everyone has to take. They can advertise that crap, but they're not allowed to advertise this because they know once the masses find out this is real, they're going to lose over 10% of their GDP because Uncle Sam is partners with everybody who has a retirement account because half of it belongs to Uncle Sam. I have clients that come to my office, slap $1 million 401k statement down on the table, say, I'm a millionaire. I say, prove it. Pull the money out. Well, if I pull out the million, I'm left with 600. So you're not a millionaire. You're good at holding half of the money for the government, but you're not good at protecting what you built, the time, which is your most valuable asset because you trade it for dollars. You're not good at protecting your time because you weren't educated on purpose by an educational system that is controlled and manipulated by that same government that enslaves you through taxation and debt.
That is incredible. And just a clarification, we got about a minute left. Quick clarification. So does Ironhawk Financial offer debt refinance? That's one of the most often asked questions I get. Do they offer debt refinance options for people to get on solid financial footing?
Great question. We have strategic alliances with companies who do. Ironhawk Financial is mostly a annuity. We roll over hundreds of millions of dollars a year into annuities, and a IUL, whole life, be your own bank company that has strategic alliances. I'm licensed to do almost everything, but I don't only have so much time in a day. So if someone needs help with debt, they can write an email. I can introduce you to one of our partners, and they can walk you through how to save money.
Got it. Joseph Lombardi, fantastic conversation. Really appreciate that. I think a lot of eyes were open today. Really appreciate everything you're doing. Keep up the fight.
At the end of the day, we're all patriots, and we got to fight and protect what we've built because it is being stolen from us daily. And I appreciate what you're doing, and keep doing what you're doing because you are a vital asset in the fight against tyranny.
Amen. IronHawkFinancial.com. Joseph Lombardi, check it out. So what you can do today, check out IronHawkFinancial.com. Go there. Most of you have never heard what you just heard. And yes, they've been hiding it from you intentionally. So get free and fight for the future of your family and your posterity. This is Matt Shea. Thank you for joining me on Patriot Radio today. May God bless all of you. And He is making this generation the greatest one. The awakening is here. Keep up the fight.